So that's it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Why are we still talking? We're done.
Well...
Today is day 744. 745. You know, if it wasn't for the absolute hatred I have for The Last Jedi, I'd say I was excited about this. I can't fly the ship. I don't know where I'm going. 1,000 light years from the nearest AMC. Star Wars Episode 9 will be released tomorrow morning. And that'll be it. I know I said no more rants about The Last Jedi. I was really hoping to squeeze in one last one. But it looks like... Well, you know what it looks like. I've got a bad feeling about this. I mean, if the franchise had just groveled and then moved on with enormous guilt, I should probably lie down, rest my eyes for a while. But no, then when I drift off, I'll be dreaming of you, original trilogy. Because it's always you. Or The Mandalorian. Josh? But you were dead.
I've died before.
Oh. Okay. Can you land the ship? I've been stuck here since you... I can't figure out these controls. I looked at the camera.
Oh. Welcome back to
Detours.
We're not in cars ever anymore.
No.
We walk around parking lots, and sometimes we're on a
finally
spaceship.
got where we were driving.
That's right. We were driving to a spaceship for all those unreleased 7 episodes, and then the 4 or 5 before that. I've been watching our archives. I had nothing else to do.
I forgot that was the first one.
On that spaceship while you were temporarily dead.
Oh, I'm sorry I left you when you murdered me.
Well, I wasn't wearing a gauntlet. I didn't think anything would happen. But we're here to talk about...
Right, so we are going to see Cats the movie.
I'm sorry.
I didn't expect that to get you.
I haven't had much sleep. Oh, man.
No, the other one that came out. Star Wars, Episode 9.
Rise of the Skywalker.
Revenge of the Skywalker. We are going to
Rise
go
of Skywalker.
and see it, and I have not been spoiled.
No, I've managed to remain completely spoiler-free.
Yes.
I've only seen the 2 theatrical trailers.
Exactly.
I haven't even seen the
I've
TV
seen that,
spots.
and I know Ian McDiarmid was involved in marketing, but I have no concept of what his role actually is in the movie. Before we go to the showing, we're going to set it up by talking about what our expectations are and our predictions and our mindset after The Last Jedi.
So, I wasn't the hugest on the prequels, but, it's like they were okay. It's kind of like I am nowadays with Enterprise. I really disliked it at the time, but now that Discovery's come along, it's like, I realize
It's
I
not
only
the worst
mildly
anymore.
disliked it. Then the Clone Wars came along, and that really was a wrecking ball against the EU, which was what I grew up on. So I was kind of down on Star Wars. And then you had the complete making it Legends. Force Awakens came in, I liked it. It was mostly positive, but it wasn't great.
Right.
Rebels came in, I loved that. To me, it felt like they rushed Rebels. They're like, next season is your last season, wrap it up. Which they did well,
but it felt like it could have gone a lot longer. So between that, Rogue One I nothinged it. Like, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, I literally nothinged it. And then The Last Jedi, which I hated. That brought me to a very low place with Star Wars, to the point where I've had so many Last Jedi arguments, and the fan base has become so toxic. Star Wars is not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Force Awakens starts slow. People say it's just remaking A New Hope. It's not. It's got enough unique plot points that I think it's better than that. But
keep going.
It's A New Hope in style and tone and feel, and then suddenly it's Revenge of the Sith with this really dark, brutal murder, which is incidentally why I'm completely against Kylo Ren being betrayed, because you don't just go, JK, guys, I'm a good guy now, Reylo forever! No. Yeah, the self-sacrifice being redeemed in dying, maybe. But walk away from the dark side without consequences, no the heck way. You closed that door when you murdered Han Solo. But I felt like then the rest of the movie, it kind of just ended with a whimper, and the usual J.J. Abrams, I can't point to any one particular thing you could take out, but it just went too long. Its plot is structurally very messy. Last Jedi, I will give it is tighter. Technically, it's better. It's better shot, it's better edited. The actors are doing great in both movies. It is a better made movie, it is a better structured movie. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it tells nearly as good or engaging or fun or Star Wars a story, or that its characters are nearly as likable. I'm not saying don't go into new territory, but there are certain key touchstones you gotta keep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference with Last Jedi. For its fans, it did hit all the key touchstones, and for its detractors, there are a different set of key touchstones that weren't there at all. We just have different touchstones. The people that liked it, theirs were in the movie. The people that didn't like it, theirs weren't. All of which to say, I was at a very bad place with Star Wars. Solo and The Mandalorian, I love them both.
They brought you back.
They brought me back. Yep. So that's where I'm at. I just watched Force Awakens for the second time ever, day before yesterday, so that I could have my last impression being the last time I remembered liking these characters. So
Plus, I feel like this one will be more of a sequel to The Force Awakens in a lot of ways. Just because the way The Last Jedi ended, I'm not really sure what you can do with that besides just move on from it.
Exactly. Its narrative trajectory goes straight into the ground. Yeah. It's an ending.
In many ways, the plot should have been Episode 7. And instead of the Resistance, it's like the official New Republic army. They get wiped out and they get sent back to being a small group. Being the Resistance. Mm-hmm. You've got all these things, and you've got
and 2 movies to rebuild.
And this is how you set up Kylo. He's kind of on the edge. He might turn good, he might turn bad, and then he turns bad, and he's the villain for the next 2 movies.
You're right. You either start a trilogy that way, or you end a trilogy that way with the intent that there will be another trilogy. Like a Revenge of the Sith. You know that an original trilogy is coming next.
Yeah.
The one thing you don't do is put it in the middle, because it kind of screws over whatever's coming after it.
I want Rey to be a nobody. I don't want her to be a Skywalker. I don't want her to inherit the Skywalker name, as the title of this movie might imply. I don't want her, sure, she can become important, but I don't want there to be some weird... So that I liked about The Last Jedi, and I hope they keep that.
I would say I agree with that on principle, and I like that when watching the movie. I almost do want her to be a Skywalker or somebody now, only with the corner they've painted themselves into, because her being the Skywalker of the title is, to me, the least objectionable option.
Between her and Kylo. Right. I am going to predict that the title won't refer to a specific person. I think Skywalker is going to be... They're going to try to shoehorn in some... Jedi are gone. They're called Skywalkers now. This is the light side...
That would be so dumb!
Light side users.
They've been Jedi for 10,000 years, but now this one guy...
Last die. They burned down the tree. Maybe it won't be that, but I'm going to predict it's not a specific person.
Okay.
I'm going to predict that Palpatine will not be back from the dead. I think he might be a spirit stuck around, or a hologram program, or a Force vision.
Where would you stand on a clone?
Not a clone.
Not a clone.
Not a living being anymore.
the fact that they didn't show him in the trailers, that does feel like they didn't show him in the trailers because something about his appearance will not be a normal person. It will be a special effect or something.
What if the whole trailer they just made up?
And Ian McDiarmid isn't in it at all? That would be hilarious.
They go to his throne room. He's not there. Okay, will there be Ewoks?
I was just thinking on the drive, there better be Ewoks. You can't go to Endor and not have Ewoks.
Because Endor has never had an ocean.
If you go by the Ewok movies, it has a desert, it has, like, cliff stuff, it actually has multiple biomes like a real planet. So I could buy there being...
They should canonize the Ewok movies.
I feel... Well, they should. I feel like you can't really have a forest without sufficient levels of moisture that would collect into lakes and oceans.
Will there be Ewoks?
I think so,
yes.
and I hope, because honestly, I have less predictions than hopes.
Okay.
I hope that they do respectful Ewoks and not like, oh, haha, shoot some Ewoks, because Ewoks are dumb. Like, I'd like to hope we got over that in the 90s.
Will they blink?
Probably.
That's a Blu-ray special.
But I'd like to hope that it will look like they were supposed to.
Will they hang out with porgs?
No. I hope there are no porgs in this movie.
You know there's going to be a porg in this movie.
I think they were a one-trick pony.
Okay. So you say yes to Ewoks. I say yes, a cameo. An Ewok cameo.
Cameo, exactly. Ewoks would join the incredibly short list of actual aliens from any of the past movies that actually show up in the sequel.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Like, you could count them in one hand, and it would be weird that it would be like...
How many established
Calamari,
aliens?
Rhodians, Celestins, and now Ewoks.
How many previously established aliens do you think there will be in this movie that are not named characters?
Except for Ewoks, I don't think we will see any.
Not a single one.
I don't think we will see any that have not been previously seen in the sequel trilogy.
Okay, gotcha. Prequels introduced so many new aliens, but it was still like a 50-50 mix of things that we'd seen
you
before.
still had familiar aliens.
Yeah.
Prediction. Will the whatever tie-in from episode 8 of The Mandalorian that's supposedly there
I don't know that there was a tie-in.
Moff Gideon, the TIE Fighter, or something that we could not even recognize except
Will Baby Yoda be in
wiki?
episode 9?
Yeah, I doubt that.
I think there will not be a direct tie-in. I think Mandalorian episode was just released early because they didn't want to compete on Friday.
So two in quick succession. Is Snoke going to have any mention in this movie at all?
Yes. One name drop.
I'm gonna go with name drop, and I'm hoping for a 3-word description. Like I said,
3-word.
My loyal servant, Snoke.
Or
that usurping dog,
enemy. Yes.
Snoke.
Yes. Okay.
Something to give us context of where he stands.
My
in
old
relation
master,
to
Snoke.
My apprentice between Maul and Dooku, Snoke. And second one, Force Ghosts. Are we going to get anyone besides Luke as a Force Ghost in this movie?
We both agree then that Luke will be a Force Ghost in this movie.
Yes.
Yes. I predict we will get Sebastian Shaw using archive footage.
I was going to...
And Puppet Yoda.
What about Anakin and Obi-Wan? Because they're the big ones. Here's what I was imagining, right? Luke shows up, and Palpatine's about to kill Rey or whatever. Luke shows up, and he's like, it's time to end this. And it's Mark Hamill, and it's archive footage, Sebastian Shaw and Alec Guinness and Puppet Yoda.
No, I don't
Palpatine's
think...
like,
no.
You're too feeble for, and he's like, we're here to fight, and then they morph into Hayden, Ewan, and CGI de-aged Mark Hamill. And they're like, now we're in battle mode, and then they go fight Palpatine's spirit.
Yes, 100%, that's what's going to happen. I don't think Alec Guinness is going to be in this. I think it's going to be Ewan McGregor as Force.
But you think we are going to get...
I think we're going to get Obi-Wan.
I mean, he's like... You're taking your first steps, Ray, so he feels like he's got to have some tie to it.
Yeah, and plus they're going to be launching a series with him starring.
Right.
So I think I don't think they can resist doing that.
Will there be a cameo from The Mandalorian then?
Yeah. I think his ship is going to be part of that fleet in that one shot.
Speaking of which, you were speculating about that shot. So...
I don't think that shot's a final shot.
Is that shot going to be in the movie?
I think there will be a similar shot. That shot looked to me like a trailer shot.
So the big one. Are they going to kill an original trilogy character?
C-3PO will not die. R2's going to explode.
Ah!
If Palpatine comes back into a living form of some kind, he will die again. Other than that, I don't think we will see an original trilogy member die.
I don't know whether they'll do that, but I hope they're smart enough to say we don't need to kill one person per movie, and Last Jedi killed enough people for like the next 3 movies. Let's end this on a triumphant note and let the people that have survived walk off into the sunset. The Rise of Skywalker, it's ill-fated.
It's ill-fated.
So, it's J.J. Abrams, who does not often stick landings. I love a lot of his work. His endings usually meander and don't satisfy.
Yes.
It's at the end of a trilogy that doesn't seem to be driving toward any kind of singular direction, following up a movie so polarizing that respecting it or retconning it away is a no-win scenario because you're going to lose half the audience either way. With what was being set up as one of the arc's central characters, central to the Kylo conflict and everything, dead, forcing you to work around stock footage. It is a complete recipe for failure in every respect. So to my mind, we need to set expectations. If this movie is only mediocre, that is a triumph of salvaging work.
All I want from this movie is for it to not take the safe route at every single possible moment.
That's fair.
And just be like, Kylo's redeemed, Rey's a Skywalker, Luke's Force Ghost who helps her be a Skywalker, the Emperor's back and gets killed, and Rey's the Chosen.
I wonder, will Hux get a big villain ending? Like,
who is Hux?
He gets to be killed with prejudice in the way that
he was, sort of a Grand Moff Tarkin type.
Yeah,
and then he just stuck around.
Yes, he's been really weird.
Okay,
but I will say, I left every movie of the original trilogy with a rush of excitement. Like, even... and I left every movie of the prequel trilogy, even Attack of the Clones, which I later so cooled down on.
Sure.
Going, that was awesome.
Yes.
I will be happy with this movie if it just doesn't do anything in the last half hour to step on that rush.
And do you think they will set up more sequels with these characters in some way in this movie?
That's a good question. I hope they do not. I hope they leave it open for a sequel, but don't do anything that makes a sequel mandatory. Having to work off of Return of the Jedi and tell a story that followed that up,
it held them back.
It held them back. And the way that they tried to follow it up and do something different, but also have the exact same paradigm so that it's almost like you pick up exactly where you left off with an Empire and a tiny rebellion. Most of the problems, especially the nitpicky logic problems of how the First Order came to be that makes no sense, all stem from that.
Yeah.
So I'd rather they not repeat that mistake. End it so that they can pick up with another trilogy, but they don't have to, so that if they decide that that is not the best story option, they don't have to do it.
There will never be another trilogy. They can just do standalone movies if that's what they want
or
to
a trilogy set 1,000 years in the future, or in the past, or whatever.
Well, guess we better go find out.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what they do. This isn't gonna be messy. You need to watch it.
Star Wars is over.
All right, we ready here?
We're back.
Woo! Yeah.
That was the worst movie I ever saw.
So, one sentence summation of how you felt. If you could wrap up your feelings in a sentence.
Not
just overall
too
impression
many,
to start with.
That's too long. I could do a word.
Okay.
Elated.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
I was going to go with the word J.J. Abrams stuck the landing.
Hyphenated?
But, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Hashtag J.J. Abrams stuck the landing.
Remarkably, he threaded many needles. Wait, what's the expression? He
threaded the stone needle.
He made it work.
At racing speed.
In a lot of ways that I was not expecting.
Yeah. Right now, this is sitting at me for number 4.
Oh, yeah?
Below the original trilogy.
Well, you're fresh out of it.
Yes. So it could settle down.
Let it simmer.
But you know what that means? That rush that I was looking for is there. At the moment...
Check one.
At the moment, this is above everything but the originals. Oh, yeah? That probably, will settle over time, but coming out of the theater, that was... I mean, you heard me. I was whooping. I was clapping. I was like, I could not contain my reaction.
All right, so... Okay, I loved this movie. It made the last two feel unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, because it really felt like JJ was like, nothing's gonna work anymore. Let's wipe the slate clean plot-wise. Here's what we're doing now. Palpatine's back.
Well, and I did feel like, honestly, Finn and Poe sort of... I mean, Poe hasn't really had a character arc. He's had an individual
character.
Problem. He's had an individual story in each movie. He barely had one in the first movie.
Yeah.
But Finn's felt like his arc of learning to self-sacrifice and everything did come to a complete resolution in Last Jedi. And rather than try and find an arbitrary way to continue that, he just had a standalone mini arc instead. So it did feel very standalone in that way.
Yes.
Like, well, Last Jedi wrapped things up, so it did feel very much like a singular standalone wrap up the saga entry, as opposed to trying to continue the story, but in a good way, in a very good way to me.
Maybe the problem is actually that The Last Jedi was too much of a direct sequel when the previous Star Wars movies haven't been. So it kind of, this one then feels like it stands alone from the other two.
And that's the thing for me. I felt like this one fixed so much of what I had a problem with in The Last Jedi.
Let's run through it.
Except for Luke, obviously, the character things with Luke I was talking about. But I felt like it should hopefully still be good for Last Jedi fans because I felt like it didn't walk back on most of the things they valued about.
It didn't just, like, throw stuff out.
Right.
For sure.
It felt like it continued on, but it, even down to the point of the Holdo maneuver, that's a 1 in a million thing.
I love that line.
Which, I thought that does kind of break combat, and I'm sure if you go back and listen to our podcast, I was complaining at length.
Yeah.
In retrospect, it's one of the minor issues with the movie, and it was a cool sequence. But I like that they did address how, you can't just go doing that to destroy huge targets all over the place.
It's an adequate explanation for why people don't just do it all the time.
I was sad. I felt like they did fix a lot of people's problem with Rose by giving her minimal screen time, just like they did to Jar Jar. And I didn't have a problem with her, so that kind of made me sad. I wish she'd gotten more. But,
and introducing... I'm sorry, I forget the actor's name, but he was on Lost and Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Dominic Monaghan.
Right, just I wasn't sure what he was supposed to be doing. I mean, he's a resistance fighter, and that's
he was everybody's buddy.
He's everybody.
I could have sworn I saw him blow up like his cockpit. They did the as flames shoot behind him.
There's just some other guy,
and then he was there at the end. So
he was there at the end. Maybe they forgot and they put both takes in. They forgot they were going to kill him.
The one thing I think Last Jedi fans will be annoyed at is obviously they did walk back on the Rey's parents being nobody.
Yes.
But I think her having a heritage was just a dramatic necessity at this point to give you somewhere to go. So I feel like that won't be popular with Last Jedi fans. Heck, that was one of the elements of Last Jedi I liked. But I give it to them because I think they didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
Last Jedi closed a lot of avenues. And so I feel like having to walk back on something to open an avenue again was necessary. But I felt like that was the only thing that really... that they counteracted.
Right. They kept the Resistance size being kind of slaughtered and cut down to like a bare minimum.
Yeah, they
size.
rebuilt a little, but not that much.
Right. Yeah,
not as much as I thought.
They're tiny. There wasn't like a huge influx of reinforcements in between movies.
They kept the connection between Rey and Kylo, and they built on the whole, even the drop of water coming through, which seemed like just a stylistic touch,
connection.
Or maybe this is sort of what Luke was worried about, why he stopped them, because something like this could happen.
Right.
They added a layer even onto Luke's motivation. He's like, really, I was afraid.
Yeah.
That I felt like, well, it didn't fix it. Nothing could fix what Last Jedi posited. It made it better for me. Well, I feel like, I hope like, it wouldn't step on it for people that liked the characterization in The Last Jedi.
It made it easier to swallow what Luke did without... I mean, it's still not where I would want the character to go, but it helped explain it.
It's still unforgivable to me, but looking back on it doesn't make me as angry anymore.
When... So there was one point when they did a flashback with Leia and Luke's Leia's lightsaber change, and then Luke takes off his face mask. It's like a great CG younger version of Mark Hamill. Leia takes hers off, and it's not quite as believable. I'm not sure if it's just me or not, or maybe I'm just like, it gave me flashbacks to Rogue One or something. But
I loved that though. that Leia did train as a Jedi.
Yes.
She did build her own lightsaber, but because she foresaw that it would be like the death of her son, she forsook the path and she gave it up.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like, is a great way of wrapping up the character. That's the thing. That's one of the things I loved about this. That's why Kylo got redeemed, and I didn't mind, despite everything I was saying in the opening, because they turned it all into a tribute to Carrie Fisher.
I gotta ask then, because Kylo died.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have still bought his redemption if he didn't die?
That is the crazy thing. That is why I'm so amazed with what J.J. Abrams did, because I think I might have.
Me too. I was buying it that he was good now all the way, and he didn't need to die necessarily.
Harrison Ford cameo.
Do you think he only did that because Carrie Fisher died?
Probably.
And
if so, that's really great, because we know that he hates the role.
Right. I don't think any amount of money would have done it. It was probably just because she died.
And that's the thing. Everything about it, but that's what sold it for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that they replayed their conversation, but differently. It was so good.
It feels like he pulled off the impossible.
He really did.
With Kylo.
The fact that Leia's death was Rey's fault, oh my goodness. I'm still not sure how I feel about that part. But the fact that it was a sacrifice that, based on what Maz says, she sort of knowingly went into.
Yeah.
That she chose to sacrifice herself to redeem her son. And that you have the symmetry of, like, Han's sacrifice is what cemented him into the dark side, and Leia's sacrifice is what brought him back.
Yeah.
And then you get to have Han give this very clearly meta-narrative speech about everything that she fought for isn't gone, and knowing Carrie Fisher's, legacy of trying to fight to against substance abuse and help people in that and everything, just saying her legacy isn't gone.
Right.
All the things she did outside of Star Wars, we love her for Star Wars, but all the things that she did as a person in real life, I felt like that was speaking to. And that was just so fantastic. And then having Poe have the, scene where he's talking to her shrouded corpse. That doesn't sound very good when you say it, but it just felt like the whole thing was just such a loving tribute to her. They did give her the Jedi training. They gave her a reason that she was not a Jedi in the past two movies and made it work.
And we got to see Luke's green lightsaber again.
Yes.
What happened to it? We'll never know. The hilt's gone.
Yeah, I thought maybe that's what she was unwrapping in Luke's hut, but then obviously it wasn't. No. But yeah, it's just so, and man, maybe this movie is just like a collectible dream, because it's like, I want the Leia lightsaber, and I want the Rey lightsaber, and I also want the Luke Return of the Jedi lightsaber. I don't really care about the lightsaber that the last three movies have been about.
Really?
That one's boring to me.
The classic, the original?
Yes, but it's made me want the collectibles of the new one.
Yeah. A lot of things in this movie were symmetrical. They it wasn't just because you were saying about both of Kylo's parents dying, and it was kind of a mirror. One turned him to the dark side, one brought him back. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Emperor being the embodiment of all Sith, and then Rey being the embodiment of all Jedi, which they set up in the last movie a little bit. You should talk about, before we forget, the thing you were saying at the end of the theater there. Yeah, so it's like it's a brilliant, I can't believe nobody's thought of this before. Every Sith takes an apprentice. And that apprentice kills their master, becomes the master, takes an apprentice. And every Sith, in theory, knows this is how it works. So why would you take an apprentice knowing that they will kill you? Is it just... It's in the past, it's been presented as arrogance. They always think that they're going to be stronger than their apprentice, that they're holding back secrets from their apprentice so that they won't be the one who's betrayed. But it always happens. But this is it establishes that every Sith master is in on it. They know that they will be betrayed in anger and hate by their apprentice, and that allows their spirit to transfer to the apprentice, which makes them stronger. It's their twisted version of eternal life in that they just sort of become assimilated into the amalgamated whole. They lose being the dominant personality, but they get to continue on. Right. It almost makes Palpatine's smug smile when he's talking about how Plagueis couldn't save himself in Revenge of the Sith take on a new meaning, because it's Palpatine going, ha ha ha, I got one over him, and it's Plagueis going, ha ha ha, I got one over on him. It does kind of put things in a new light. And it also puts in a new light in Return of the Jedi when Palpatine's telling Luke to strike him down with all of his anger, whatever the line is. That Luke might not know it, but that's the idea. Like
that really is what Palpatine wants.
It wasn't just so that he could like turn him to the dark side. It was so that the Sith would become more powerful that way.
Right. That he would now be born in Luke.
Yeah. Exactly.
It works so cleverly. It's great.
Yeah.
So let me just throw out a few random things. Wedge Antilles, that was fantastic. The moment where all the ships appear, even though you kind of know it's coming from the trailers, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, the big wide shot of all.
And John Williams is back, and I love that he used a piece of music that only ever was in the end credits before.
Which piece was that?
Dun 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 dun. You know, that's only an end credits piece, but it worked so well here. John Williams was back in this movie for me.
Where'd he go?
I don't know. But the last few movies, he was trying, but Force Awakens, I noticed, just like Rogue One, it had a couple of good, original themes, but a lot of time it would just be like something exciting would happen, and it would just suddenly throw in da-dun, dun, da-dun, dun, da-dun, dun, da-dun, dun, and then that's it, and then back to whatever it was doing
kind of like video
before.
game style. It would rely on these beats that were just thrown in at random.
Right. When you hit the achievement, it triggers that piece of music no matter what was happening on the soundtrack at the time. It's a boring soundtrack. I listened to it on the drive up. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of, like, Rey's theme is very beautiful. I still feel like the Resistance theme is not very good. It sounds more like a Gestapo theme from Last Crusade. But, like, there's some beautiful, thoughtful, introspective music in it. But whenever it tries to be exciting and actiony and triumphant, it almost always fails. And I feel like here, he had recaptured and he was using old motifs, not just throwing them in, here's a quick blast of that one, but he was weaving them in organic ways into the soundtrack. And he did a wonderful job of blending the original trilogy themes and the new theme, the Emperor's theme, Rey's theme. It all flowed together and fit like one continuous entity.
Yeah, I loved hearing the Emperor theme in the destroyed throne room. That was really well done. Oh, the Death Star.
I think I remember the thing that I said.
Okay.
To remind me. I love that it was the horses are from Endor.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the TV movies, we saw horses on Endor.
The Endor TV, the live action.
The Ewok Adventure aka Caravan of Courage, and Battle for Endor. We got space horses in Star Wars from the one planet that has actually established that there were space horses before. This was, again, it's not like they just declared the Ewok movies canon. But just like Life Day and The Mandalorian, they pulled something from it, and I love it. And they even went to a landscape that looked very similar to the more grasslandy places in the Caravan of Courage. But I'm not sure that this was even supposed to be the same, because you saw a bunch of different moons when they were flying toward it. And that makes the forest moon of Endor make sense. This is the grassland moon of Endor.
Right.
Like,
it wasn't 100% for sure, but it definitely sounded like it was a different
moon.
Yeah.
Which is just fantastic that they took a weird little turn of phrase and used it to create something, but they also said, oh, this species of animal is, dotted around here. So they wanted to do their horseback riding scene, which was actually much more minor in the movie than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
So it was completely not objectionable.
Also made sense, because it wasn't the plan. They were improvising.
Right.
They were going to land on the ground.
And they also, apparently, speeders can be jammed. I'll put that up there with decloaking scans as...
Maybe they just jammed all repulsor lift technology.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like you should be able to do that, but... But, like, I just love that they pulled them from the one place in the expanded universe that creatures like that were shown to exist. Plus, I like that they had warthog faces. That was fun.
Did they in the movies?
No.
In the
so it's clearly a slightly different species. Right. I just like that as a design touch. Other things from the EU. Bothan. I am 90% sure that was a Bothan we saw at the end when everyone was hugging everyone.
Right.
That is great that is finally they get a live action appearance.
Is that the one that was like white?
Yeah, sort of goat-like. Mm-hmm. Because that's exactly what they looked like in the EU.
It's ironic that they brought in an alien from that time period.
Yeah, from the old EU.
That has never appeared on screen in any way.
I mean, it's not like it's not an alien from the original trilogy. It's just one that was only named.
It was name dropped. But as far as the only other OT alien they brought in was
Mon Calamari.
Mon Calamari. Yeah.
And I think I saw Celestin there still.
But yes. Also,
no.
the same.
And
one
the Mon
that
Calamari was apparently an Akbar, a member of the family.
Right.
You
You think that was his they killed Akbar, so we gotta get
someone in it,
another Akbar in.
And the one other thing, sort of from the EU, obviously the Palpatine return story of the EU is Dark Empire, the comic series, and they did it seems like they did go that route of clone body and his consciousness can inhabit it.
Right. Strongly implied.
Since we saw them growing Snokes.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Okay, so your prediction was correct. Exactly 3 words of explanation.
I made Snoke. Yeah, that was great. And then we saw a couple of other half-finished ones. That was fantastic. I loved that so much. And again, it's one of those things like the Holdo maneuver. They didn't actually have to answer. I wasn't like, oh, this is a glaring plot.
Right.
But I just love that they did offhand in a way that didn't break anything. I mean, you could call it a little fan servicey, but
yeah,
I
definitely
liked it.
a response to fans.
Yeah, but not intrusive. I didn't feel like.
Yeah.
There's only one moment. I'll get to that in a second, but in that story, not only did you have that with the Palpatine, one of the place that because at this point, they had Coruscant as the New Republic capital.
Yes.
And in this comic series, they'd been driven back off of it, and they were at a place called Pinnacle Base, which was a bunch of rocky spires. Oh. I could be reading too much into it, but I feel like when Poe was hyper skipping, that was maybe a tribute to it.
Yeah, the really spiky planet.
Now, I will say, J.J. Abrams introduced this in the 2009 movie where the Enterprise drops out of warp in the middle of the atmosphere of Saturn. But I don't know I'm necessarily okay that you can just hyperspace into all of these locations, into and out of them now.
You can
fast and loose there.
You can do anything with hyperspace now.
You can talk to people while they're in it, even though it's supposed to be another sub-dimension.
But you can't raise your shields in atmosphere.
Yes, what?
They removed all restrictions from hyperspace, added a new restriction for shields.
Yes. You can go to hyperspace in an atmosphere, but you can't raise your shields there.
Which I'm pretty sure we might have seen shields operating in atmosphere many times. Like the Naboo starfighters, for example, had shields.
Yeah. You could say it's particle shields.
Particle shields.
Because you have ray shields and particle shields.
Yeah.
You could say particle shields can't be raised in an atmosphere because the particles of the atmosphere would be in conflict with it, and so that would protect them against the bombardment of heavy ordnance like torpedoes or something.
Right.
Or
that makes sense.
The other thing is, because they established this as such a bizarre location with magnetic fluxes and gravity wells and everything, you could say it's just this atmosphere.
It's just in
because
that
it's
atmosphere.
Super energetically charged.
That's probably what it would get retconned to if it became a problem.
Yeah. That was my assumption. This place is just like this energetic soup. And it felt very much like the Biss core world of, at the center of the galaxy from the comics. Although I'm not saying that's a reference or anything, just that it kind of had a similar feel. But
the opening shot with it almost seemed like a big floating trapezoid cube thing in the opening shot when they show that planet and Kylo's going there, and he walks under it. It looks like it's floating. I don't know that it is floating. But
weird.
I don't know, it's just that it made me think of the Clone Wars episode with the big diamond in space, the Mortis.
The Mortis. Well, that's what the dagger was making me think of.
Plus the way that you had to get there kind of felt like it wasn't really a location in space. You have to do all this to get transported there in a way or something like that.
It reminded me a lot of kind of like a sand crawler, but it reminded me of something, and I can't remember what now. But it had I love the feel to that.
Yeah.
Before we jump to that, I'll just a couple more scatter shots, and then and then we should take this movie in order.
Okay.
I feel bad, just like with Rose, for poor Maz, because I really liked her in Force Awakens, and she's had less and less in each movie. But I do like that they never explain how she got the lightsaber, but she apparently is just like this haver of random antique stuff because she has an original trilogy era medal. And that was
Whose medal was it? Han's.
I felt like it was Han's.
It has to be.
But I did feel like her giving the medal to Chewie was the one fan service moment that was just silly. And I don't mean like, haha, I mean, that's just silly. There's no reason for that. It's nothing but a fourth wall breaking joke to the fans. I don't mind it. The movie had enough goodwill, but
Han got the medal. Chewie was jealous, and it was a strain on their relationship over the decades. Chewie really wanted that medal. Han knew it.
In universe, I could say, Han wanted you to have this.
Yeah. When you were old enough.
I don't know why I didn't give it to you over the however long it's been, but I've decided now.
Yeah.
Because you're bereft of and that was actually a really emotional moment when Chewie was like, and Poe went to hug him and Chewie's just waving him away because it's like he has lost everyone. Like, that was surprisingly emotional for me. Like, poor Chewie.
I can't believe they faked us out with him dying early on.
Yeah, I didn't believe that they would do it.
Not quite, because we didn't see it well enough.
But even so, it was just like...
Yeah. There were two fake outs, and then the 3PO, they implied it would sort of be a death. But then it turns out he's just... Well, first he got his memories back, first of all.
Well, they mentioned R2's memory banks, and I was like, oh, okay, they are going to restore him. This is just to give him some good shtick. But I felt like this was the best movie for 3PO since the original trilogy.
I feel like they really wanted to give him a good send-off, knowing that he's probably not going to appear in anything else after this.
Yeah, but, like, I've seen my kids watch the Lego Star Wars, movies, and they do have some great sense of humor, especially at the end of Return of the Jedi. They have, like, Lego Luke with the 3 Force Ghosts there. He's like, Yoda, Ben, some guy that I don't know. I'm your father, Anakin Skywalker. You didn't look like that 5 minutes ago. But I've seen them give a lot of really corny shtick to 3PO.
Yeah.
3PO had nothing to do in The Last Jedi, and he had a lot of, like, he barely had anything to do with Revenge of the Sith.
A few quips, but nothing.
A few quips in Attack of the Clones that were terrible. The whole, this is such a drag, I'm beside myself. It was like, a lot of the gags that they've given Anthony Daniels in the last decade have been painful, but this felt like it, just like in The Force Awakens. You may not recognize me now. I have a red arm.
Right.
Like, whoever, whether it's JJ or his writing team, they know how to do good 3PO humor. I felt like he was on fire the whole movie with, like, just fantastic jokes and quips and stuff that fit the mood. So should we try to take this in some sort of organized fashion?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is just kind of our initial, like, our
stream of consciousness
reactions here, so it's not really going to be super organized, but yeah, we can try and go through it.
Now we can go back to the start and see what things that...
Right, so right out of the gate, the dead speak.
The dead speak, that is a fantastic...
That is it really grabs you.
That one-ups war, exclamation mark, as the best,
Is this
like...
only the second exclamation mark we've seen in a... It might be.
I don't know.
I remember people saying war.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Luke Skywalker is missing is a pretty strong
it's a pretty good hook.
But this is just like the dead speaker. Yeah. Like, oh, you went there. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. So, and then it goes... I mean, this is what the opening crawl is for. It's to take narrative shortcuts, which the last movie was not able to do because of the way it was set up.
Which, to be fair, was kind of J.J. Abrams' fault. Rey standing there holding the lightsaber.
Yeah, if you end on a cliffhanger, you have to...
What are you going to do but pick up right there? Exactly. That's not Last Jedi's fault.
That's not Last Jedi's fault. But yeah, no, I mean, Palpatine being back...
he sends out a message of, like, revenge. I want to see that in a short story,
Yeah, I want to know what that message was, and, like, did everybody see that? Who'd that message go to?
And Hope's been lost again.
Right. And, alright, so Kylo tracks him down, gets a Sith holocron, which we later find out is not a Sith holocron.
No, we're both like going,
very similar to a Sith holocron, only green.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fine. It's not like they're saying that holocrons are called locators.
It has, like, a pedestal. Like, instead of being a flat pyramid, it's got a blunted... base of a pyramid.
It is slightly different.
Slightly different, but I like
so
that.
It's okay if they want to expand upon. I mean, they definitely expanded upon Sith, like, backstory and technology quite a bit in this movie.
We've seen Sith holocrons in Rebels, so they're still canon. So it's not like that's been
So, I mean, so Kylo gets that, tracks down Palpatine.
Yeah, right in the opening sequence.
Right.
Like, I'm just sitting there going, wait, this is the first 2 minutes of the movie? Like, we're doing all this right out of the gate?
Yeah. Because that's like, we thought the whole movie was going to be about that based off of the trailer, and that's like what a really good trailer does, is just kind of, because once you're past that in the movie, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which is where you want to be. And so right after that, then we see Poe.
Well, we should say, that's where they did the whole Snoke thing. I love that.
All the setup.
I did like the idea it was going to be 2 factions, and then it's like...
Then
Palpatine's like, nope. I've
the final order.
Yeah, and I love that the Empire was also known as the New Order. So you got the New Order, the First Order, which is a stupid name to come in the middle, and the Final Order.
Right.
But the stupid name came in the middle because probably Hux named it.
Right, exactly. We're not exactly sure.
Palpatine didn't name it.
It seemed like most of these First Order guys weren't really in on the whole plan.
Has Snoke forged a new empire? Yes. And what has he called it? The First Order. What? Oh, I should have programmed him better.
Yeah. Time to get a new clone in there.
Yeah.
This one's defective.
Hopefully he gets cut in half or something. That's stupid. Snoke.
Okay, I gotta jump tracks. So, do you think the whole reason they aired the Mandalorian episode a couple days early is to get everyone used to the idea that the Force can suddenly heal people?
I was about to... I was going to wait till we got there, but...
The first time it's used on that snake creature in this movie, I was like, okay, it's kind of like they're doing the same thing in both movies. It's not necessarily a reference in The Mandalorian, but then it became such a major plot point in this
which
movie.
is funny that we didn't, I'm going to say that Rey and Kylo can do that for each other because they're a
They're a diadem. Diadact.
Dyad.
They are something.
They're connected.
I like that a die, whatever it was, in the Force, because I'm sure there are people throwing their thesauruses at our screens the way that I would be if I knew what it was.
Is it a word?
I'm sure it's a word.
We'll look it up.
But I love, because that felt just like a vergence in the Force. It's like it fits the pattern of these things.
It's a nice little mysterious
happen.
sounding anomaly.
Yeah, but it's like these things are known to happen, these strange occurrences.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of expands upon the mythos.
But I'm going to say that that's why they could, Rey could share some life force, Baby Yoda can do some healing, but not...
To bring back from the dead.
To bring back from the dead or heal a mortal saber wound.
Yeah.
That it's only because of their special bond, because otherwise... Obi-Wan clearly didn't care that much about Qui-Gon. Train the boy.
They were not.
Do it yourself. You train the boy.
They were not a dialysis in the Force.
Yes, I'm going to assume that because they were not a dialect in the Force,
A dialect.
they couldn't do that. That's only because of their unique bond, which is funny. Because you have a solo son going to the dark side, and the girl that he is closely bonded to, that has a special power with that her task is to destroy him or turn him back. It's like, why, you could have just called them Jason and Jaina Solo. It's so funny that they ended up having basically a Solo kid almost be a twin and go to the,
right.
It's
lifting a lot of elements.
Lifting a lot of elements.
Yes.
But
in retrospect, if Rey had to be somebody, she had to be the granddaughter of the Emperor.
Yeah, and we called it. We called it. She's a Palpatine.
She's a Palpatine. You called it. That was all you.
Although I gotta say, I kind of want a little more backstory on the Emperor had a son, which he also did in the EU.
Yeah.
Not Trioculus. Triclops.
Was that the guy with the eye on the back of his head?
Yes.
The terrible book I remember reading as a kid.
Which is one of those levels things that is sort of like the Marvel Comics. Or the holiday special, where it's like even the EU didn't have it quite as canon.
It's been non-canon for a while.
Yes.
That was the one where the guy had a glove so he could shoot Force lightning, but it was damaging him every time he did it, but he couldn't really do it.
And they needed the indestructible glove of Darth Vader because it was made to be indestructible so it survived the Death Star explosion.
Gloves, not both of them.
Yes.
Indestructible.
Yes. And you had the fake guy with 3 eyes. Trioculus. He was saying, I'm the Emperor's son, but Triclops, the slave down in the mines, was the real one. But I kind of want to know a little more story. Who was the Emperor's...
Right, so I'm trying to think, what's the timeline here? That guy looked like he was maybe 30 in the flashback when Rey was a kid, which was around the time of Return of the Jedi-ish. When Rey was a kid, right?
Was it?
Or maybe it's 5-10 years later.
Yeah, something like that.
Emperor Palpatine had a kid after Revenge of the Sith.
You think so? With that face?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I want to know who is Rey's
It would have made a lot
grandma.
more sense. It would have made a lot more sense if he had a kid when he was like a senator and then like a chancellor and he had a normal face.
Let's tap this back. Jakku is 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay, and I could buy that.
And I would assume that people only set up shop on Jakku after the Battle of Jakku because what would there have been to scavenge beforehand?
Right.
So let's just assume it's real time.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi was 1983. This is 2019, which is
Yes, it is.
Which is what, 36 years?
Yes.
36 years after Return of the Jedi. Let's assume that.
Ballpark.
We'll say 40, ballpark. Rey looks to be about what?
20?
25, somewhere in there?
She's definitely no older than 25, I would say, and no younger than 20. So
Okay, let's say we'll go in the middle there.
Okay.
22.
22.
22 out of 40,
Yeah.
which means that in theory she was born around 18 years after Return of the
Right.
Jedi. So that flashback that
When
we would have
she's
seen,
like a 4 or 5 year old.
right, so about 23 years after Return of the Jedi. So presuming that guy's around 30, that would make it about 3 years before about the Rebels time period.
Maybe Palpatine's son was a clone.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Boba Fett style.
That makes more sense than anyone being
Perfect
willing
genetic
to.
replication. No alteration.
Although it would be a little more of a stretch to say your parents were nobodies. I mean, one of them was a clone of Palpatine, but they were nobody.
They chose to become nobodies.
Yes, which is, if he says I didn't lie to you, but he knew they chose to become nobodies, then yes, he lied to her.
But
I
don't
would
think he knew
assume that he only found out from Palpatine at the start.
That's
of
what
this
I would
movie.
assume, and I think it
that's
was
the
a
way
little
I would-
ridiculous for everybody to just take him at face value in the last movie when
I
he
mean,
said that.
I would buy that he was being earnest at the time because as far as he knew, he only knew their cover story.
Yeah, exactly.
And he found out more. So he wasn't lying to Rey, and he only knew exactly what they had chosen to be, and that in and of themselves, they weren't anyone except that they were someone's children, but they weren't living life as... So, from a certain point of view, that still fits.
Yes. Okay, so that scene with... We're still at the beginning of the movie.
Yes,
the scene
with
with Palpatine.
Oh, no. We're all the way back there.
The other thing he revealed was that any communication that Kylo thought he was having with Vader from beyond the grave was with Palpatine.
Right, so that line that I was saying about show me again the power of the dark side.
That was Palpatine.
I love that I was every voice you ever heard in all the different voices. That was so good.
It's very good. Okay, so then we've got Poe flying the Falcon, which is where he belongs because he's the Han Solo type.
Yes.
The Han Solo type belongs in the... Not Rey flying the Falcon this time.
That was a great sequence there, just getting the message. It's funny. At the time, I thought, this is great. I bet, just because I thought the same thing with the Attack on the Dreadnought at the start of Last Jedi. I was like, this is great. Everything so far, I am loving this 100%.
Yes.
The movie's probably going to lose me later.
Nosedive.
But at the very least, I'll have this. And now in retrospect, that's actually one of the less memorable sequences.
Yeah.
Like,
really only
I thought that was going to be
from
the high water mark, and it was... No, that was low tide.
Yeah. That was great. I want to know... I love that the second planet they hyperskipped to, where it had all the big columns of white, like, floating buildings. Like
I almost thought that was Bespin. I almost thought that was
very
floating
well could have
refinery.
been. But the style of the architecture didn't necessarily look like it, and the clouds didn't necessarily look like what we've seen of Bespin, but I could buy it if they said that's what it was.
And I will say, in conjunction with the Holdo maneuver being 1 in a million, I feel like this has at least restored hyperspace to the way it's supposed to be, which is you're entering another dimension. So as long as you don't encounter an immediate obstacle, you can jump from a very unsafe place.
Right.
Because you're bypassing it. You're going through it, which is exactly what had to be the case in Force Awakens. And you could say with the Holdo maneuver that there's just this one magical moment right as you're entering it that you hit super acceleration but have not left the dimension.
I think that's what it's supposed to be implied.
Or something that subspace is being torn wide open.
Right.
But the idea that timing it that way, even with like a droid doing super calculations, is 1 in a million, almost an impossible fluke, and this was just because,
she got lucky.
The Force was with her.
Right, the Force was with her.
like, that makes that a lot less objectionable. And
Are you saying Holdo was a Force user? She was a Jedi?
No.
This whole time?
Because apparently, Finn, unless he's supposed to be Force sensitive, he could sense Rey's death.
I think Finn might be Force sensitive.
Might be, but I took it to just be like the idea, just like with some of Han's tricks, that the Force can be with those who aren't
the will of the Force.
Yeah. They don't have to be using it for it to be influencing them or helping them out, or
So then they get the message, and then we get a little bit of Rey training.
Right.
Which is,
again, yes, I can buy she can do whatever she can do in this movie because you told me off screen she's been training. That's all I need. She did not feel superhuman in this movie. She felt balanced, even when she, in and of herself rallied and defeated the Emperor. It was because she had to call on the help of all the Jedi in the past. It wasn't just like, you are the chosen one, you are awesome, you do it. It's like, no, you need to unlock the embodiment of all the Jedi in you, which at the start of the movie, she tried and failed to do.
Yes.
But it felt like each of them had a character arc over 2 movies that sort of dead-ended, except for Kylo. His sort of continued on.
Yeah.
And in a very unexpected and welcome direction. But they still carried through, they made a 1-film arc for the other main characters, but it worked.
Kylo did have the best 3, carry-through arc for all 3 movies, I would say.
Yeah.
Far better than anyone else.
I really didn't think they would be able to pull off anything but him being the villain and make me buy it.
Yeah.
And
I honestly almost thought he was going to stay dead when Rey stabs him with his own lightsaber.
Which would have been so unexpected. And then I started to get mad. It's like, what, Leia dies and Kylo doesn't? But then it was like, oh wait, oh my goodness.
She infused him with
it's almost like they've switched places. Rey is falling to the dark side and Kylo is coming out of it. That's one thing that I didn't expect, and that was an interesting thing to do with it. And it made me engage in the story. And he had a redemptive resolution, and then he kind of dropped out of the movie until the end. And even in the end, he was there to complement Rey's story more than doing anything in and out it being about him.
Yeah.
I just feel like every way they used him was like, I didn't think there was a perfect way that they could walk that line, and they found
They did it.
They found a way to make him work.
Yeah.
To the point where I would have been okay if he and Rey had survived and been like, we're going to go off together, Reylo shippers. When he brought her back, I was like, this just being a happy ending, they're both okay and they're together, feels a little too easy. I hope they're going to go, he then collapses because he's transferred her life force into him. Even then, I might have given it to him. It felt like that would have been a little too easy. But it was to the point where he could have lived or he could have died and both would have worked. But I felt like not only was it a wonderful redemption, but I don't know if he practiced in the mirror, if they used some CGI or what. But when she put her hand on his face and he gave this sort of lopsided grin, he looked so much like Harrison Ford. It was incredible. Like
at the end.
Yeah, right at the end.
I was actually thinking, when he turns good, when he's in the rain there, and you have the scene with Harrison Ford, and then there was a shot there where he was doing an expression. Maybe it's just because he's been scowling this whole time, and he actually does look a lot like Harrison.
Maybe they cast him because he does look a lot like Harrison Ford, and we just never noticed it until now.
No, I agree.
And I thought the mask was a really good way of not only returning Kylo Ren to, feel like now he has embraced his role on the dark side, but of keeping him dehumanized to the point where when he takes it off, when Rey's in the docking bay there, like, it almost feels like it's strange seeing his face.
Yeah.
Because he ceased to almost be a human, and then to have him transition from that when he does turn good, when he shows up on Endor, or on one of the moons of Endor, to then be himself again. It feels like very effective, because if he just kept being his face reveal, I'm going maskless self the whole time, it wouldn't have felt like as stark a transition. Finally, we have someone actually go up to the edge of one of those darn docking bays Like,
Apparently you can just walk right through the force field.
Yeah, well, you can fly right through it. Why
good.
not? But that whole sequence was so and the Falcon showing up and blasting everyone except Rey and Kylo back. I love that whole
was a great sequence.
And I love the mind trick when she's like, it's okay that we're here. And then she's like, you're relieved to see us.
Yeah, she's like, that didn't go far enough.
Thank goodness, guys. Like, that was so great. The humor, the humor was spot on in this movie. But it wasn't like just a bonkers, silly, goofy, off-the-wall movie.
Yeah.
But it had such great humor all throughout.
It did. So where are we chronologically?
Chronologically, they just landed, and they had that whole bit about the Falcon being on fire that I really loved. And
the droid getting
I do like that they haven't managed to refit it without that compressor that Ankar put in there.
Oh, yeah.
But
apparently you don't need it.
The hyperspace leaping like that is, at the very least...
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
You're probably going to die.
I do wish they'd brought up the whole, like, back in the original trilogy, you had to wait for the calculations to come up. Like, just jumping blind like that feels like it should be way more dangerous.
That might be what leaping is jumping blind, and that's why you can do it so quickly, but you might crash into something, and that's why it's dangerous.
I guess.
That's kind of the impression I got, because they were almost hitting things every time.
The fact they kept ending up in atmospheres with obstacles, it felt so precise.
Yeah. Well, maybe why you can't jump without calculations is because you are naturally drawn to a gravity well, and that's why this happened in this movie, because every time they jumped, they were naturally drawn to a gravity well. I don't know.
I don't know.
It was an exciting sequence.
Yes. And how crazy I was talking about how the First Order upgraded their TIE fighters. Now that seeing TIE fighters jump to hyperspace was like, what?
They're upgrading everything. Got jetpacks on stormtroopers, which, first of all, obviously Finn has never played any of the Star Wars video games, because stormtroopers have had jetpacks for many years. But
funnily enough, it didn't look quite as good as in The Mandalorian. But it was a nice one-upping of the, and it felt so Commander Cody, Radar Men from the Moon. It felt returning back to its pulp serial roots.
Right.
So I did love that.
Yeah.
So back on the base, my one real complaint about the movie, it was just, not that it was bad, but it was so painfully obvious that all of the dialogue was written around Carrie Fisher's handful of lines in deleted footage. And it was torturously contrived to get her to say the right thing. I feel like it's
clearly they needed that character for the plot really badly. And they made it work.
They did wonderful enough tributes to her, that it's not like I object, it's just I wish you couldn't see the strings quite as, clearly.
So they did what they could.
And never underestimated droid was probably in response to R2 having brought about the map.
Right. And at least they wrote in a callback to that later, that Rey repeats that line.
Yeah.
So they did their darndest.
They did. They tried so hard, and with what they had to work with, like we were talking about.
Right.
This was a phenomenal try. Even that, being as awkward as it was still a triumph considering their limitations.
Yeah.
And while I wouldn't have chosen to kill off Carrie Fisher, again, the way they used it to give so many tributes, and the way they...
Plus they needed
They did it to avoid having her story end with no payoff. And instead they made it be the biggest payoff of all with Kylo.
They were clearly going towards a reunion with her and Kylo, and they suddenly couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Our prediction for Force Ghosts was a little off. We got Luke and we got Leia.
Yes.
That's it.
And we got everyone else in voice.
We did get a lot of voices in the same way that we had Qui-Gon in Revenge of the Sith.
Or Obi-Wan in Force Awakens.
Right.
Or like everybody in that one Rebels episode with the time gateways, but I'm pretty sure that was just stock clips and not new.
Yeah, you're not necessarily a Force ghost if you die as a Force user. You can't necessarily come back, and I think Qui-Gon didn't come back as a Force ghost.
Right.
It really only
is the people Qui-Gon taught.
Yeah.
Yoda, Obi-Wan, Anakin, although for some reason he has never showed up again. Maybe you could say Palpatine was blocking him, or maybe you could say because his was such a last-minute save that his connection was only very tenuous, and he only got to show up like once.
There wasn't a super good plot reason for him to show up in this one, anyways.
No, but again, you just have to ask the question of like, why did he not go up? Hey Ben, I don't want this at all.
Palpatine must have been blocking him. Yeah.
But the fact that all the other Jedi, you could still hear their voices because they live in Rey. Okay, so Luke, obviously, Yoda, Qui-Gon was very prominent. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan, Mace Windu.
Yep.
I'd forgotten about it by the time we got to the end credits, but we did hear Anakin in there.
As Hayden Christensen as Anakin is credited.
And I don't, I like that they did it in a way that I didn't object to, but at the time I was just like, oh! And they even used his line to be like, no, he still brought balance to the Force.
You're right.
Did he, though? Palpatine unbalanced it again somehow. Yeah, like, don't think about it too hard, but... They were reaffirming and honoring what Lucas did of saying, no, that was the prophecy being fulfilled.
Was it though?
I don't think either of us picked out his voice, but I was saying I wanted a voice cameo from Rebels. I was thinking Hera. Mm-hmm. Apparently Kanan.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yes, apparently Kanan, Freddie Prinze Jr. as Kanan.
Yeah, this feels just like Filoni being one of those X-Wing pilots in The Mandalorian. It's like the Filoni-verse, the animated Star Wars is being accepted into live-action Star Wars. And I love that. Just like seeing Wedge again. Just like, Lando and everything. It felt like, and looking to all these Jedi's past for the source of defeating Palpatine once and for all, this really did feel like it was closing out the saga by paying so much tribute to the past without being like people would complain about with Force Awakens being just like, oh, here's the training remote, here's the thing, here's these things from, and just being a bunch of stuff thrown up on the screen living in the past. Like, it felt like they paid tribute to it, but they weren't living in it. They were paying off the story of this trilogy, these characters.
Yeah.
Speaking of the past, though, I love that we got the Dejarik game one more time. That I just love seeing it that way. And I love, too, that they concluded that Chewie was cheating. But that he's like, you're 250 years old. Of course you're better at it than, like... So, Rey's training. Yep. Anything else to say about that? I liked it.
Yeah, it was really creative.
It was really cool.
Definitely thought that planet was Endor in the trailer. Turned out not to be. It was a good training montage. Where she is.
I loved how they carried through and amplified, and this is all throughout the movie, carried through and amplified the whole seeing each other. I mean, it still annoys me that doing that apparently killed Luke when they could do... Oh, but you know what? No, I was thinking they're a diadem in the Force.
A dialysis in the Force.
So it makes sense that they could have that bond, and that's why Snoke could link them like that.
Yeah.
Like, even though he didn't know it, it was less of a strain on him, and it's not a strain on them doing it because of their bond. But I like that they brought that in and they amplified it, and again, even sort of the drop of water thing, that they used that as a plot. Like, when he snatched the necklace off her neck, that felt like a corner has been turned. Right. Something big just happened here.
Yes, and then they got to the point where they could have a lightsaber duel through that ability.
That was so great.
Which is like, clearly it's stronger than Luke's because he wasn't allowed to hit lightsabers with Kylo at any point during their fight. He just dodged a bunch.
Right.
Yeah.
And I liked, at first I was like, tell me where you are, and was really nervous that he would find out, but I was like, well, he should know she's holding the dagger. It's in his private chambers. And then after a little while of fighting, I was like, oh yeah, he probably doesn't know that dagger from anything. Just because it's a Sith dagger, he's never seen it before. It's just one of the prisoner's confiscated effects.
Right.
Like, he hasn't got it memorized.
Right. But then the helmet.
The helmet. Which, I got, like I was saying, the childish part of me really wanted Rey to just reach out with her lightsaber and go, just chop it up into pieces. Like, yeah. Before she runs out of there.
The final fate of Darth Vader's helmet is to lie on some random planet.
Oh, did it actually cross over?
Yeah, it crossed over. The debris from the pillar stayed there.
Well, then it got blown up. That was the planet they blew up.
Oh, and then it got blown up. There it is.
There it is. That's okay. Good riddance. Good riddance, I say. Unless it was built indestructible like his glove.
Right? It's just floating out there in space.
So we have all those awkward-y conversations. I do like that they continued Kylo's story arc. I wish this review is more organized, but this is stream of consciousness.
Yes, it is.
Of that he doesn't want to kill Rey, that he is refusing Palpatine, that he wants to join with her. And when he finds out that they have a special bond, it's almost like, even more than ever.
Yeah, and then you find out that Palpatine knew that
Palpatine
was doing
knew.
the whole
Palpatine
time.
isn't stupid. And in fact, that he leaked that information because he knew that Kylo would give the information about her parents, and that would goad her into revenge.
Yeah. Oh, and we finally get a conference room table with the First Order all around the conference room table, just like in A New Hope. It's what we needed all along, and them talking about plans and things.
Yeah.
Explaining stuff.
I really thought when Richard Grant had the original Star Trek, the band of lighting across his eyes, that was indicating he's the spy. Hux, I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
But I love that they did that not out of any kind of, because he was clearly such a First Order loyalist, but just because he hates Kylo that much.
He wasn't a spy because he was working for the Resistance. He was a spy. He turned spy because
he wasn't a callous.
Yeah.
He didn't turn into a good guy, and he was not fooling anybody.
No.
But, and I just felt like they used him very well there. That he did what he had to do, and then he was perfunctorily dispatched because they had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
It was the best that they could have done with his character. They didn't try and make him too much, make him a huge threat.
Yeah.
They didn't just throw him away. They right in the middle there.
Really makes me want to know what they would have done with Phasma had she not been unceremoniously written out.
Okay, back to chronology, sort of. They make it to the desert planet.
Yep.
All the stuff we've already seen. Now, here's a measure of how much I hated Kylo at the start of the movie. When Rey cut off the strut and his ship crashed, you remember I said to you, it's like, if they just killed him here, I would respect this movie so much. And it's funny, because already by the time she stabbed him and I thought they were going to, I had sort of backed down on that. I didn't feel that way anymore.
But at this point, none of that good stuff had happened with him.
Right.
That is pretty funny.
And
so,
like you said,
a third desert planet.
There are many desert planets. Like you said, the Mandalorian tie-in, it turns out, was along with this movie to really establish the whole idea of Force healing. Because that was going to become a major plot.
Yes.
And now that I say that, we did talk
about
it.
So nobody can be mad because Baby Yoda did it.
Yes.
And we all love Baby Yoda.
As Honest Trailers said, all is forgiven.
Yes. So she heals a snake, big old snake.
That was cool. That felt very Star Wars.
Reveals to them the exit.
Yes, that was
on purpose. You got to have a big monster of some kind.
Yeah, you gotta. And that whole sequence with the chase and everything on the speeders, again, it felt like it was well scored. It was good John Williams. It was some good action set pieces.
Action choreography.
And then you get to the ship, and Chewie seemingly man, when Rey is goaded into blowing up that ship, it's like the first seeds of because I noticed that even with the remote, you get a little bit of I'm a little concerned
aggressive
here because she seems a little giving into her anger here.
Yeah, and there's just the fact that if you strain hard enough, you can accidentally produce force lightning. It's like,
it wasn't that it was the physical strain, that it was the duress. It was that her anger was mounting so much, it turned her effort into something other than what she was intended. You know what I mean? It's like, you're using the forces like opening a floodgate. If you dump enough of this red dye into the water's going to be coming out red. You know what I mean? Like, even though that's not what you were intending. It was weird looking force lightning, but, whatever.
It was blue.
It was blue, yeah.
It wasn't the red stuff. Video games.
His lightning at the end, I wish it had looked more like the Return of the Jedi lightning. It reminded me of...
well, that was like a whole nother level of a power.
Yeah, it's true. Was it Thor Ragnarok? It was something where you had lightning once again, sort of in frozen form. Maybe it's Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, I know what you're talking about, that type of effect. And I feel like that's just the modern equivalent. That's just the modern version of it, rather than being manually rotoscoped on.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I just wish that it had looked a little more unique.
Okay.
And been a little more jaggedy.
Looked a lot
wish it
like
hadn't looked like something I'd seen before.
Okay.
But that's a very minor complaint.
I gotcha. Yeah, speaking of something I hadn't seen before, when Kylo stops her lightsaber swing when they're dueling, and there's kind of like particles coming off of it. I thought that was really interesting. It's like he's almost putting a strain on the beam of energy itself.
Yeah,
you know,
which she had done to him just a second before.
Yeah, but with his, you can't really notice
Yes.
it because it's spitting sparks.
And again, I would be like, well, how come no other Force user did that? But I feel like there's a lot you can excuse.
They're a diadem.
Yes.
They're dialectic.
Dyad.
Because they are a dialect in the Force.
Yes.
They speak a very specific language.
Yes.
You know. I like the idea of that the Republic also like locked out this Sith thing. Like that was a fun.
I love that. I love droid stuff. That's one of my favorite parts of Star Wars is the way they do droids, and just the fact that he's mechanically incapable, as he says, of translating the language. He understands it and knows what it means, but there's just no way for him to willingly do that, even though he wants to.
It's like, because he knows it, I get that it's like in a protected buffer and there's probably somewhere. But I kept thinking, this is the part where you play like the... it's kind of like when you get a genie and you rules lawyer him into doing it. It's like, well, since you know where it is, you can't tell us, but can you point us?
Take us
can you fly the ship? Just, you don't have to tell us where we're going. Just go there.
They did ask him before, like, he made the decision to have his memory wiped, and before he made that decision, they asked him, you know the message, is it worth it? And he was able to confirm that the contents of the message were valuable enough to wipe his own memory. So, like, there is a way where you can kind of, a loophole where you can be like...
Okay, I got a fridge logic here.
Okay, alright.
Because I did actually think this in the theater.
Yeah.
What the heck is up with that dagger with the radio? Are you telling me that thing was made after the Death Star wreckage crashed to be a specific map to there? Because what in the world? That makes zero sense.
Well,
Its blade shape is literally keyed to the shape of jagged wreckage that wasn't supposed to, like...
points.
So, like, are you telling me that dagger was forged after the Death Star crashed?
Right. So we've got the guy with the smooth face and the weird eyes. I forget his name. He is some sort of Sith fanatic follower. He follows the Sith. He had their symbol on his hood ornament, on his speeder.
That's true. So he would know the ancient Sith.
He would know the language
enough to...
And it was his dagger. So he went to Endor, the moon, found the Sith locator beacon, then carved the dagger.
I mean, to be fair, based on our very rough math, there is enough time for him to have created that specifically.
It's the only way it works.
It's bizarre that he would take the trouble to do that, but okay. So apparently, Palpatine wanted Rey specifically, because my first thought was he took them to Jakku, let them drop Rey off, and then took them to Palpatine, which would be stupid. No, my guess is that they arrived on Jakku separately. They entrusted her, they sold her, whatever, to Unkar Plutt because that's the only place that they would never think to look for her. Shortly after that, they either boarded his ship willingly, like they had a rendezvous with him, and that's why they knew we had to hide Rey, or he found and captured him, but then he presumably took them directly from there to Palpatine, where he tortured and killed them.
Yeah.
And they claimed, she was already off Jakku. Which, like, literally, I was confused why the mother said she's not on Jakku anymore. Why would you even... Like, why would you even give them that as a starting place?
Don't look up Jakku. She's not there.
I mean, it's like hiding Luke on Tatooine. But it's like, along with Chewie and the Falcon, you know, Han and Chewie, I knew we should have looked at the Western Reach. Apparently just no one goes back to double-check Jakku. No. I guess.
It's a backwater.
No one ever thinks, maybe we should just check there one more time, just in case that was a lie. But
so, I guess that implies that Palpatine's son knew enough about the Sith process to also resist killing his own father, or else he could have just transferred into his son's body.
Well, it could be that he was not as strong in the Force somehow, that it's not a guaranteed...
It skips a generation.
Not a guaranteed thing.
Yeah.
Or... Yeah, something about him made him unsuitable.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just that Palpatine did not have enough hate leverage on him to turn him.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like, revenge for killing your parents, that could get you to do it.
If they knew enough to keep Rey away, then they probably had some inkling of what he intended for her. So.
Yeah, for some reason, she was the one he wanted. And maybe it's just because... Even though, again, just like with Snoke bridging them, even though Palpatine didn't know that there was a dyad, in the Force, he could still tell there was something special about her, more so than another Force user.
Okay, so where are we chronologically? I don't want to get too up
Well,
there.
unless we have something to say about, like, the quicksand, which I was like, why does Rey not just, like...
I was waiting for that, because they pause, and it's like a hold for a beat.
And you thought that's when it explodes out.
And all the, it all floats around them.
Instead, it cuts to another scene.
And she's like, being a Jedi is about floating rocks, after all.
Well, they already did that at the end of Last Jedi.
Did. She floats enough rocks.
But it was one of those things. I did like the sort of the double helix thing around her at the beginning. But yeah, and then they cut away, and you're like, wait, what?
They're dead?
Yeah, well, they're going to do something, but that surprises me. Lando's introduction was incredibly obvious who it was going to be, but I liked it anyway.
Yep.
I wish he'd been in it more, but hey, he lived, so I'm not going to complain.
No inkling of what he was doing in the meantime. He just got the call that they needed help from Leia, and since they're friends,
Yeah, well, it said she dispatched secret agents throughout the galaxy. I'm kind of wondering if he's one of them.
Okay.
So they take off in the ship. The Falcon is abandoned, and actually, when you think Chewie's dead, like that shot of the Falcon's empty cockpit as the ties are pulling actually kind of is like oh man, they're really both gone. They really have killed. Like that's kind of. That sucks. I feel like Abrams knew what he was doing with that shot of saying all the original trilogy characters are dying, and isn't that,
all the ones that were ever crew members of the Falcon.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah.
Well, except for Lando, but he's not there. So I felt like it was a way of driving home the impact of Chewie's death and
I think so.
Of setting up in some ways his return and Han's return. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we did get all of the original trilogy cast back in this one. So you've got them on the city.
They're in the city.
They're in the city with the little droid maker. I love that I love that he's the one that.
Okay, well, first they meet the new bounty hunter lady.
Right.
Part of the crew. We don't get an explanation as what the crew is exactly, but she's part of it. And she and Poe have some history. He used to be a spice runner.
Right. Which, hey, he's a Han Solo type.
Yeah, he's a Han Solo type. And she tries to kill them, but then Rey points a lightsaber at her, and then all of a sudden the bounty hunter lady's like, oh, okay, I like you, because she threatened to kill her. And that's how bounty hunters work. If you threaten to kill them, then they like you.
I think it's the not carrying through with the actual killing. Though.
Possibly. So then they help him find the little guy who's the droid reprogrammer. And is he supposed to be the same species as that gambler on Canto Bight, who was like the comic relief guy, I wonder?
Maybe.
Very similar looking species.
I like them. I like that we have a sentient species that's so small.
Yes.
But I just really like his character that he takes the time to actually introduce himself to 3PO, and later on, 3PO's like, that's one of my oldest friends!
Yeah, I love that too. So they go to the ocean grassy plains moon of Endor, and...
I love the whole storyline with the former troopers.
The former trooper
and what that does for
battalion,
Finn. That's
great connection for Finn.
Yeah, such a great connection.
Yeah.
And a great scene where they're just like, doing the whole...
Because,
wait, Yora?
Because the story up until now has liked to sort of ignore the fact that he used to be a stormtrooper by and large, and so this was great to finally see that brought back around and show that there are other people, there are other stormtroopers who are human, who could turn. They're humanized a little bit.
I do like that it's way too dangerous to go out there.
Yeah,
and then Rey goes out there.
And
it's fine because she can use the Force, but then Finn and the lady go out there, and apparently that's okay too.
Apparently they have a bridge. There was a bridge.
Apparently it really wasn't that dangerous.
Yeah. Well, it still seemed pretty dangerous with the waves, but nobody got hurt, so it can't be that dangerous.
I think they went out there, she said there's more than one skimmer, so I think they must have just taken a skimmer off screen.
Off to some debris.
I liked the mirroring of Rey doing some Palpatine parkour in the wreckage of the Death Star to mirror her going around the wreck of the Star Destroyer in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, that was...
introduction.
It rhymes. It's like poetry.
There you go.
Okay,
it kind of does. I
was...
hope George Lucas likes this movie, because I feel like this movie really respected his ideas.
I feel like...
And I don't feel like it disrespected Rian Johnson's at all, but I feel like it really...
This one felt more like going back to that kind of pulp action inspiration that he was working on.
And like I said, it respected the balance of the Force, even if it only paid it lip service.
Yeah.
And we've got stuff to talk about.
On the Death Star, in the debris, there were empty stormtrooper armor just scattered around. What happened to the bodies and the skeletons? They were empty.
Well, to be fair, scary. I mean, I think after like 30, 40 years...
That'd be skeletons.
I was going to say the bodies, but the skeletons...
Maybe that's too much for a PG-13 movie. No.
Or it's just that they're really hungry scavenger.
Yeah, I thought they were going to introduce some kind of scavenger animal because of that, but they didn't. So then we have a bit of Rey's evil clone mirroring Luke going into the Dagobah cave.
I love that as she's walking through and you see her in sort of the mirrors, that
it was like that scene from Last Jedi.
Yeah, her vision there.
Yeah. So then
Kylo
she confronts Kylo. So we get that, and then we get Han Solo's cameo.
Which was so great.
Which is great. And then we don't see Kylo again until the end, which was perfect because he doesn't have anything else to do plot-wise.
Right.
They have the triangle that they needed, and they take it, and they go with like an advanced attack fleet or something.
Did nothing else happen between... No, wait.
There was some preparation.
Rey goes back to the Jedi planet and burns Kylo's...
Jedi planet.
Where Luke was in Last Jedi.
Oh, yes.
And burns the
island,
TIE fighter.
The island. And then we see Luke's Force Ghost for the first time.
It looks so weird. Like, they have this really unusual effect, and I love it. It looks so great.
Yeah.
It's really, really fantastic.
Where it really looks like that old compositing and sticking him on there.
I will say one thing to the Last Jedi crowd, and I'm not sorry. This is Last Jedi's bad. When he says a Jedi's lightsaber should be treated with more respect, I think that was J.J. Abrams chastising Ryan Johnson for the shoulder toss.
Luke threw it away in the last movie, and he catches it in this movie.
Honestly, somebody
cut that together
as an icon.
Cut together the shots of him throwing it and then him catching it. So it looks like he caught it from himself. Anyways.
But, like, it's an iconic lightsaber. It's Luke's. I get that they were trying to do a humorous subversion.
Yeah.
That moment didn't work for a lot of people, and I feel like that was a little bit of a, no, we don't do that. And so I did appreciate that meta line.
Although
like, that is one thing it walked back on for The Last Jedi, but I feel like that is the more right of the two.
It's interesting because Yoda was able to interact with nature in a way in the last one, but this is the first time we've seen a Force Ghost interact physically with an object.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And they still didn't give us any rules to explain the hows and whys of why they can conveniently show up sometimes, not others. But at least they didn't have ghosts intervene in any way that question became a dramatic...
They didn't have all the Jedi Force Ghosts come in at the end and attack Palpatine and his army of shadows.
Yes. So it's one of those things where it's okay to me because they never brought it up in such a way that they forced the question to be answered. You can just sort of... It's mystical, whatever.
Yeah, and he has a very similar line to something Obi-Wan said in the original trilogy as a Force Ghost, where he says something like, "This battle, you have to do this on your own," or something. Right. I can't help you.
Yes, that's very true. Very true. I wish we'd had more of him in it, but I felt like this was Luke redeemed. This was the character of Luke as he should have been, and they did add that layer onto it, like we were talking about the chocolate coating on the bitter pill that makes it easier to swallow at least a little. Yeah. And I loved doing the X, which is funny because that's exactly what I was like. He didn't need to die in The Last Jedi. He could have just lifted his starfighter out. Well, here he did, and you know what? It's okay, and it was worth it for that ending shot of the Millennium Falcon, a classic X-Wing, and a new series X-Wing flying toward the camera and then rejoining the fleet in triumph. That was great.
That was great.
So then they get to
So she knows what she must do, and then they go with an attack. They go with all the men they have, but Lando's going to get reinforcements. Yeah,
right. Exactly. They have very few, but Lando's going to send out the call again.
Or to personally rally the troops somehow.
I have to say, I really liked... I liked the idea that they all have planet-killing weapons now, because A, if you have that technology, why not? But B, that just like they answer the whole super weapon escalation with like, you know what? No, it's at a ridiculous level now. We've moved it beyond it being an ultimate weapon. Now the technology just exists. Yeah. You can't just blow up a battle station because it'll take them forever to build a new one and you've ended the threat. Right. You've got to stop the guy. But I also really liked when they blew up that planet. It looked so practical. It reminded me a lot of the like Independence Day when the White House blows up or something. But it felt like a more realistic version of a planet blowing up than any of the ones that we've gotten to date.
I really like that effect as well. They should redo the Alderaan explosion now.
One more time. So now we're basically into the end game here. Mm-hmm. And I love that it's like, apparently you do not want people This is why Star Destroyers stay in space, because, man, if you get onto the deck of there, you can just mess stuff up. But it felt like a nice little tribute, you know. This movie was not being Return of the Jedi. I mean, you had a confrontation with the Emperor. You had sort of a look out the window, see your friends dying moment. There's certainly echoes, but it wasn't just remaking Return of the Jedi. But I did like that. I felt like that was another subtle Return of the Jedi tribute, where Finn and did they ever even give her name? But turning the gun on the Star Destroyer bridge was sort of an echo of Luke and Leia turning Jabba's sail barge deck gun on the ship, you know?
Yeah, because those are the people that enslaved them.
Which it felt like, there you go. It was an echo, a tribute, without being, you know, it sort of like Walker's being in Last Jedi. Have an element in it without just redoing the whole movie.
Sure. Yeah, so then, so Palpatine, every scene becomes more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Continually becomes...
I do like the idea that when he resays the abilities, you know, that some consider unnatural, the idea that, you know, almost that balance was restored, but he used this unnatural technology and unnatural powers to come back. Like, I like that they emphasized that this was unnatural, that he was cheating, that this should not have been possible. But I do like that he's like on life support, that he can't come all the way back. Yes. It's not that easy.
Yes, he was at death's door.
And I also like we've missed mentioning them the last few times, but the Knights of Ren. I like that they have their cake of pointlessness and eat it too, because it's like they bring them back and make them a big deal with their own theme and everything, and they still never do anything important, and we learn nothing about them. Like, it's not that they were mentioned and they did nothing with them and never did anything in Force Awakens. It's that they brought them back and gave them a spotlight and still did nothing with them, which to me was hilarious.
I feel like everybody expected that their backstory would be that they were maybe some Jedi that Kylo turned and brought with him when he turned it, or like, something. They helped him with the massacre because they were there in the flashback, but they're not even shown to have any Force abilities of any kind.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's good plotting. It was definitely a very weak story element that it feels like something that he just crammed in there to address fan complaints and had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that was good. That was actually a bad movie. Bad. But, like, they were completely pointless and superfluous, and to me that just made it funny. Like, to the point where when Kylo was confronting them at the end and they were the obstacle he had to get through, I didn't even realize until I saw one of their swords that that's who it was. Yeah. I thought it was just random.
There were guards there. He could have been fighting anyone.
I thought it was some of those guys that were up in the bleachers. That Rey continues the grand tradition of heroically kill a whole bunch of people in the process of defeating the bad guy. I don't think those people in the bleachers
were actually there. I think they were like shadowy ghost figures.
You think?
They were all the past Sith. The spirits.
That would be awesome if that was what it was.
I think that because they don't interact with anything, they don't do anything, they're just watching.
Okay, so, I hope that they were intended to be all the past.
He had some royal guard type figures guarding his body, but other than that,
that would be awesome if none of those people were really there.
Yeah,
that they were just all the spirits waiting to witness the grand culmination of their plan.
Yeah, so she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," and then she tricks him, passes the lights. Did we skip something?
No. Well, I mean, we haven't done much in the space battle, but that's okay. You have to.
It's a space battle.
I liked that. The space battle was good. I loved seeing all the X-Wings, Y-Wings, A-Wings. All I want out of Star Wars. Just show me some of the starfighters from the original trilogy.
The Ghost
that's all I
was in at least 2 shots. I saw it in another one. I was really hoping for a Razor's Crest cameo in the Mandalorian ship, and maybe there is if we freeze frame some stuff, but I didn't spot it.
I will say though, the as big a deal as we made of the space horses on the Star Destroyer, it was almost over so quickly it didn't have a chance to be anything. Like, I would have liked for them to make more of it than they did. But that was nothing offensive, whatever.
Yeah.
And it worked, like we talked about earlier. But the sequence when they're all getting destroyed, and I really could have sworn Dominic Monaghan was one of the ones that got the fire behind him in the cockpit, but I guess not.
No.
First, they're all just getting blown up.
Okay.
And Poe is like, I'm sorry, I really thought there was a chance, you know?
Yeah.
That whole sequence of Lando doing a callback to the, you know, there's more of us. I love that message because that feels like our world, our internet age, our propaganda, our information age of the 21st century in a nutshell, and especially as a Christian. It just feels like that whole message of the way they make you, the way they, get you to lose, the way they try and beat you is to make you think you're alone. I feel that way watching the news all the time. And just, I felt like that was such an uplifting message. There are probably a lot of not just Christians. I know a friend who's an atheist who feels the same way as an atheist, actually, that feels, outnumbered by Christians. I'm sure there are people on the right and the left, and, especially the opposite of whichever president or Congress is in power, that feel that all the time, that the way they try and get you is make you feel like you're alone. You're the last person in the country that holds to this belief, or that
you better get angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this was such an uplifting message of remember, they'll make you try and think that. That doesn't mean it's true. There may be a lot more of you out there than you realize that still hold to what you believe, so don't lose hope. But and that whole moment with the music, with the ships filling the sky, that was just phenomenal. Yeah,
and we don't even see them. It's not like, I thought they were going to jump in. I thought we were going to see them all jumping in, but the camera goes over and they're just there.
That has got to be one of the best shots of Star Wars.
That's going to take some freeze framing.
That just like when Obi-Wan and Anakin go over the waterfall at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, and it's like one of those. That's one of the all-time great reveals. I love that. I love that.
So then Palpatine reveals that he's got all the power, ultimate power, in fact.
Yes, and, because he draws it from the Force dialect.
The dialect, yes.
And I like that he throws Kylo in the pit and is like, the way I fell, you fall. It's like, no one really believes that's going to be his ending. No, you're not fooling anybody, JJ.
Yeah. But that shot, Rey looks up at the ships getting destroyed by the lightning, and she's despairing and losing hope, and that felt more threatening than anything Palpatine's ever done before.
Yeah, well, and I liked that it wasn't, he couldn't destroy them, he could just disable them.
Yeah, kind of knock them about and destroy themselves.
And fortunately it got resolved within the amount of time that it takes a starship to fall to the surface, because then they would have all died. And the lightning part comes, and she's just lying there on the ground, and that's when she's calling the be with me. And you get all those voices, and that was just so, again, when I heard Anakin Skywalker's voice say, in Hayden's voice, say restore balance like I did, or when Kylo's hand came up, both of those were yes moments. And to get me to go yes for Hayden Anakin Skywalker or for Kylo Ren, characters that I hate, that is why I tip my hat to you, Sir Abrams.
You did it.
That is impressive. Yeah, just so many triumphant moments in this. When it's Lando and Chewie and then Wedge in the gunner's seat. That was just just like with the ship showing up, I let out a whoop in the theater. People must have hated me in the theater because I was clapping, I was cheering, I was loving it.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Yeah. And then, so Palpatine very definitively killed.
Apparently, we didn't even see it happen. It's just a flash and he's gone.
Well, we saw him disintegrate.
Well, we saw him starting to, but then... Yeah, it was weird.
Okay, well, first of all, apparently it just takes 2 lightsabers. I mean, 1 lightsaber, no. But 2 lightsabers, yes. That will do it.
Yeah. If only Mace Windu had had a second lightsaber.
I like how this ties in. This might not be a confirmed thing, but it's one theory that in Revenge of the Sith, he actually was stuck there with lightninging himself, and it was doing damage to him. He was just counting on Anakin stepping in and stopping it, and he knew this was the only way to turn Anakin.
But it did seem like it almost created an immobilizing here too.
It gets him he's stuck there. He can't do anything to stop it, and then Rey didn't kill him. He killed himself by deflecting the lightning back at himself.
Yeah,
and which is why she doesn't become a Sith all of a sudden.
Right. I like that idea.
So she kills him with
uses
self-defense.
The power of Luke and Leia, and using the Force for knowledge and defense, and the power of the Jedi. It works symbolically in so many ways. Yes, is it ever going to work as well as Palpatine just having been killed by Vader and that being the end of his story? Right. No. But arguably, none of this telling a story that's set after Return of the Jedi works.
Yeah.
With that as a given, that you've crossed that bridge. You've told a story coming after Return of the Jedi, and I feel like bringing Palpatine back, giving Rey a lineage, are givens of you got to do something now that you've opened
gotten
the doors
yourself into this mess.
Yes,
This
was a fantastic way to do it, and it has so many layers of symbolism that work.
And then worked on a lot of levels.
You have the whole Rey and Kylo thing, which is exactly what I thought. It's like, oh, he's going to go give his life for hers. Transfer that much of his life energy, you know, and that feels fantastically. That feels fitting. I feel like that we've seen healing somewhat like that with, you know, the Force in the expanded universe. That it's like you heal grievously enough, you can imperil your own life. You know, you can give your life for someone. But the fact that does bring him a final redemption. They do have a moment where they're both whole and he's with her as Ben.
Yep.
There was never a taking the hand moment. I was surprised. I thought he was going to do that before they both raised their sabers.
Yeah, she was.
Or
she
at the end,
do it if he was Ben.
Yeah, I was surprised, but maybe it's like because taking the hand was Kylo Ren's thing. It was a power, a control thing. Become my apprentice. Here it was him standing alongside her, and that wasn't needed anymore. But I like that, and then he had the death and the fade away, which is funny. Because part of me, the childish part of me is like, or is she just going to go, I'm going to give all my life back to you. No, I'm going to give all my life. It's like, no, fade it away. You can't, no take backs.
No give. And Leia, his mom, waiting for him. And then she fades away too.
Yeah.
Symbolically.
And then Maz knows what's going on.
So I guess in Return of the Jedi, Vader must have...
just waiting for...
Vader... Okay, haha. But no, Vader must have faded away inside the armor after they put him on the pyre.
Which I always assumed that was an empty suit of armor.
So, okay, so that's victory.
And then you hear about the uprisings. Yeah. I love the shots of ships. Not only the one plunging past Cloud City, but then I love the visual humor of just another Star Destroyer crashing into the shot of the crashed Star Destroyer on Jakku. Like the iconic shot.
The cycle repeats itself.
Yeah, to me,
maybe this will be the last.
I love how it's like uplifting, but still funny. Yeah. And it's a visual gag. They don't oversell it. They don't overdo it. It's just funny.
And we mentioned they have one of the Star Destroyers being destroyed by a hold-on maneuver.
Yes. And Wicket is what I love. So Warwick Davis
was credited
is in every permutation at this point. He's been in, well, not only the Ewok TV movies, which bring him back, but there's nothing conflicting with canon. But you've got he's Wicket in the original trilogy. Yep. He's that one guy, whatever, in the prequels in the pod race scene. Then he's that guy again in the standalones in Solo, and now he's Wicket again in the sequel trilogy. True. So Warwick Davis has a presence in every.
Warwick Davis for a spin-off Ewok series of movies.
Yes.
Reboot the Ewok movies.
No, just keep going. Keep making sequels. Don't reboot them. Bring them in. Canonize them. But I loved all that. I loved seeing, that we... It's funny because we got to Endor and it's like, oh, it's another moon of Endor, so I guess we're not getting any Ewoks. And then right at the end, it's like, oh, we did get Ewoks! Yay!
Yep, little,
and the Bothans. And Chewie's medal, which is silly. And, seriously, everybody hugging everybody. I couldn't tell if that was J.J. Abrams
montage
trying to be funny and poke fun at all the ending hugs in Return of the Jedi.
Did he kill his friend? J.J. Abrams' childhood friend that he puts in all his movies, who actually had a large speaking role in this one. He's the guy with the beard. In
the guy that was like, this is great.
Yes.
The optimistic
guy. Did he die in the final battle?
Yeah, he was the first one that kicked off the montage of people dying, and Poe was like, no, you guy, no!
So we get a hug montage.
Lots
Everybody
of hugs.
wins.
And a group shot. But once again, like Last Jedi, they refused to end on the group shot.
It would have been premature.
Yes.
We needed a little more wrap. I was hoping for a little more wrap up involving some core world stuff. At least we got Bespin, we got a few shots, but
maybe they're saving that for TV.
I don't know. So we'll see. But then we get
the return
epilogue to the Tatooine, which was very sad to see the decayed state of that set, which I assume is almost naturally what happened to the set when they left it out.
Yeah, well, because it was a real house.
Yeah.
It was a real place.
Yeah.
But I really liked that she's going there. I like that they do a callback with the sliding down the hillside, once again calling back to her introduction.
I think they had her musical cue then as well.
She's burying Luke and Leia's sabers, but you almost get the feeling not forever, but until the next generation needs them. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, because she preserved them. They're protected in like a cloth.
But also,
at the Skywalker homestead.
Yeah, at the Skywalker homestead, and then the one thing we haven't talked about in Rise of Skywalker as we wrap up here is the whole what is the Rise of Skywalker, and it's Rey, and I like that she's Rey. Not a Skywalker, but that she sort of rejects the name of Palpatine and as heir of Luke and Leia's legacy, seeming with their approval.
Right. She has a character moment where she has to decide who she is.
Who she is, yes. Yeah. And she chooses to be a Skywalker. Not because they're renaming the Jedi. Yeah. No offense to you.
That's okay.
Not because...
they made it clear the Jedi are continuing.
And presumably she's going to train new ones.
Yes.
Not because she's, that is her genetic lineage.
Yes.
But because she's the heir of their legacy, and that's who she chooses to be. Them,
because they were a force for good, ultimately.
And just like walking the line with Kylo, that was a way a door number 3 that I didn't think they could find a good one, and they did. I love that.
It was a no-win scenario, and they won.
And that shot of her and BB-8 against the sunset, beautiful. I love it. That is the perfect way to end it. I am so satisfied by this movie.
It exceeded expectations.
Yes, right now, we'll see, where the rush leaves it when it fades off. But right now,
Will this be an Attack of the Clones situation?
This is... I don't think it's going to be that. But right now, this is number 4. Right now, this has beat out even Solo, which I love, which to most people, that's not saying anything, I know. Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith. Right now, this has trumped all the prequels, standalone sequels. Like, only the original trilogy itself is better in my book at this moment. And again, even if that fades and it drops a few lines, it's certainly going to stay above, those bottom 3 of Rogue One and, Attack of the Clones and Last Jedi.
I can't place this one yet. I need to watch it again because...
But no matter where it ends up, it left me with that ending rush. Yes. And that's what I want. I haven't got that saved for Solo since 2005. And
there you go.
It
met the bare minimum requirements of a Star Wars. No, I'm just kidding. Wow. It exceeded the bare minimum requirements. It exceeded
all of my expectations.
Yes.
I think
J.J. Abrams, looks like you can write finales.
Yes, and honestly...
have some faith in yourself.
Your ending did still go a little too long, but this time it was okay because it all worked. I know that there are people who hate this movie already. I don't understand.
No way.
I know of at least one person already.
Star Wars fans not liking a Star Wars movie?
It managed to both walk back some things in Last Jedi and respect Last Jedi in a way that I feel like even hopefully Last Jedi fans would appreciate.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't. I'm not one, so I can't speak to it. I suspect this one will go down controversially. There's still some people that just have such a hate on for Kathleen Kennedy. That have such a hate on for Rey, and I understand having objections to it, but you know what I mean. And there are some people The Last Jedi was not the movie for. Like me, there are people that this will not be the movie for.
Star Wars is different things to different people, and not everyone. This isn't what everyone's looking for.
So I know that this is not going to be universally beloved. I felt like they did the balance between does it cater to the fans and their complaints? Yes. Does it do so without bending over backwards? Also yes. And does it do so paying tribute not just to the original trilogy yet again, but to the things that have come before in this trilogy, both JJ's own entry and the things that aren't his entry? And I feel like, again, yes, this is not a perfect movie.
No.
It had some sloppiness. I would say far less sloppiness than Force Awakens had. But it just had so much going for it. Is this the movie you would have asked for after seeing Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith in theaters? Maybe not. But is this the movie that, after Force Awakens and Last Jedi come into existence, that is the perfect way to wrap it up, given the situation as it stands? Yes. Mm-hmm. Couldn't have been better for me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it could have given the Knights of Ren something.
There's like little things you could tweak, sure, but overall, man, coming out of the theater, Star Wars is back.
Yeah, seriously, between this, Solo, and The Mandalorian, it's like Star Wars is on fire right now. Not like the Millennium Falcon, where everything's on fire, but like on fire in a good way. Mm-hmm. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
All right. So I think that about wraps it up. I think we managed to cover everything. Awesome.
We really need to find a better way to end these podcasts.
May the Force.
The end.
The end.
We're not doing any podcasts ever again.
Right. Done.
It's a satisfying conclusion.
We've died and become one with the Force.
Oh wait, but what you really need to do is have our lapel mics drop to the...
I'm not gonna do that. They become Force Ghosts with us.